Hi everyone, welcome. This is yet another brand new series of I Am, a series where we feature individuals who have made it up the ladder and of course faced failure, success likewise and overcome challenges in their journey. So today we have an individual who is no stranger out there in the industry, and she has made her name in the industry out there and faced success as well as overcome challenges likewise, and she's none other than Aroshi Nanayakkara. Great to have you with us on the series of I Am.
Hi Joel, nice to be here.
Likewise. How does it feel for me to ask you this question first and foremost? How are the times treating you so far these days?
I think challenging times undoubtedly, with COVID on the one side and the whole economic situation of the country on the other side. So I'm on the board of Sampath Bank. So we're in the thick of it in figuring out from dollar liquidity to all of that. But having said that, I think the resilience of our people, the resilience of the country has really shone through. So I think it's a very important lesson. I think we knew this even from the time that we had a war going on. Sri Lanka will survive, and the question is, how do we really thrive? So I think so many of our companies and industries are doing extremely well. It's just making sure we have the macroeconomic space to do that really well.
Starting off our conversation with a very hard-hitting line, Sri Lanka will survive. Definitely, as Sri Lankans, we have faced even tough times, but this will definitely overcome. With that positive spirit, I would like to start off with this question focused on you, on Aroshi itself. How would you like to describe yourself out there in the industry? How would you like to portray yourself? How would you like someone to know you as in the industry?
So if you're talking of something like a personal brand name, I would think I'm extremely passionate in what I do, and I will not take no for an answer. If there is something that has to be done, I will take the long road if it has to be taken to make sure that it is done. So I think passion, a lot of commitment, and a vision for something better. So I'm there to contribute to society, to the companies that I'm on the board of. And whether it's something small, like setting a terms of reference for an audit committee or an HR committee, I wouldn't say no. Because if that is what is required at that time for that organization, I'm there to contribute. So I think that my passion is to contribute. It's not the making money or the acquiring of power, but the contribution part that I really enjoy and that I thrive on.
Is this something that differentiates you from the rest and defines you from the rest?
I would think anybody who's successful has that innately in them. Some people learn. I do training. I'm a corporate trainer as well. So from Andrew Carnegie to people like that in the 1960s, 70s, some people learn how to be that, how to go forward or go towards a vision that they create for themselves, and the commitment follows through. So he called it whipping up a passion. He didn't have that passion. He was a coal mine laborer, right? He didn't have that passion. So he was all about whipping that passion in himself before he got to anybody else. But I think most successful people have that drive, have that vision, and have that commitment. So I think type A personality to a certain extent, a lot of us have it, I would think.
Lovely. Very well said. Whipping up is something which you mentioned very clearly. I would like to ask you, going back to your humble beginnings, we'll say schooling days and how it all started. What was that, what was your ambition? What did you want to be when you were growing up? Did you have something in your mind?
So, Joel, not really. I mean, I didn't want to be, I didn't know that I would be on corporate boards or anything like that. When I was in school, I still had that ambition. I still had that vision. When I was 10 or 12 years old, whatever the scholarship exam time, my parents had already entered me into ladies' college.
Okay.
I sat through the scholarship exam by myself. They didn't know that I was actually studying for it. I passed it and I got into Visakha.
Okay.
Right? And then my parents said, look, we've already put you in to ladies' college. I said, no, I am going to Visakha. I've already got in and I've done the work, the hard work also. And, all credit to my parents. And I think that's something very important, where you instill independence even at that young age.
That's right.
So they said, okay, fine, I mean, if that's really what you want to do, you go ahead, right? So I got into Visakha, and I went to, and after that I did my O-level exams and the achievement tests and the SATs and all of that, and I got into MIT when I was 17 plus years.
Wow.
Right? So I left for MIT before I had to do my A-level exam.
Okay.
Right? My friends were sitting for their A-levels when I was already at MIT. Right? So I would never have got to MIT had I gone to ladies' college, because I would have had such a ball.
Yes.
And that whole the education, the focus on education that Visakha has, I think really drove me and pointed me towards that. So at a very young age itself, I knew that I wanted to study abroad, and I wanted to study particularly in the US.
Okay.
Right. So for me, cutting edge technology, all of what was new was happening in the US in terms of education, and a brilliant education there. So to me, I felt that was where I wanted to be. And I worked towards that. So I applied to 14 universities, right, to get into some university. I didn't really care. So I took from the Ivy Leagues,
Yes.
from the MIT down to the lowest ones, so that I would get in. And after that, I thought, okay, I could transfer. So I think getting into MIT was a really defining moment for me. And once you get in there, only you realize getting in is the easy part.
Surviving.
Staying in for 4 years is definitely the tougher part of it.
Yes.
So you keep thinking, my gosh, these are brilliant people.
Yes.
You don't belong here.
Yes.
And it's only in your third year, and this is not just for me, it's for everybody at MIT.
Yes.
It's only in your third year, and by the fourth year, you're pretty comfortable.
Yes.
Third year only you begin to think, okay, I might be okay here.
The first two are the hardest.
Till then, you just don't know.
Yes.
So from there, once I graduated and came back, I got into banking. I was at Deutsche Bank and ABN AMRO Bank. And for me, banking was great, but I wanted to be in the nuts and bolts of things. I wanted to be where things were being manufactured and all of that.
Okay.
Right. That was always a passion of seeing how things are done and how it can be improved and all of that.
Okay.
Particularly at that time in the banking space, there wasn't anything greatly new happening, not like in Singapore or Hong Kong or somewhere. So you are there for 5 years, you kind of, you're doing the same thing over and over again. So I've had really a completely checkered past, kind of. It hasn't been one route that I have taken.
Okay.
So from banking, I moved into HR
Okay.
for 10 years. From HR, I moved into risk management for 6 years at Brandix. And then I took over as CEO of Brandix Hangers, and then decided to move out on my own into consulting. So it's taken me, into very different areas. But I think that's very important, that you take those opportunities that come your way, that you do not shy away from those opportunities.
I think, Aroshi, it has been a great roller coaster ride for you. From something which really clicked me was you said even at your very early stages, independence for the right thing was given to you by your parents, and that was the actual changing point in your life, according to which I felt like in this conversation. Well, talking about role models and independence, well, everyone looks up to someone to say that, this is the individual that I would like to thrive to be someone, or, one day I would make my way there. In the case of you, who did you look up to back in the day? And do you still have this role model that you work towards to be?
I don't think I respect many people, and I admire them for what they have done, and the journey that they have gone on. But I don't think I picked one and thought, okay, this is whom I want to be, or this is the path I want to follow. I think it's important to have role models, but still that journey has to be individual. It has to be something that is right for you, and it has to be something that you're courageous enough to take. Yeah.
So basically, it's personal to you in terms of you, like you said, you respect so many, but then it's again up to you to determine who you want to be in the future.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Very, very well said. In your journey, I'm sure I mentioned about the roller coaster ride, because you said, from your school time, how you entered university, and then you wanted to get in the nuts and bolts of the whole thing, and then you were faced in different industries. What was your biggest joy in this entire period of time? Was there this one moment which you recollect to say, Joel, I think this was the biggest joy of my life?
Again, I wouldn't say there was one moment. I'm somebody who derives joy from a lot of a lot of different things, and from different moments. So it could be a great team that I would have led in one company. It would have been averting of a crisis in another company. Or different aspects where I would have derived a lot of joy. The challenge that was given to me, so I really thrive on challenge. I need to have my brain working on something all the time.
Okay.
So I'm not unhappy about having hurdles come my way, kind of thing.
You need it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I needed it. So because of that, I think each of those that you overcome brings you a sense of satisfaction, right? And I think that is what has been my journey. So I wouldn't say there's one element. So there are many joys, but not one that is like, goes beyond everything else.
There is not one particular incident you can mention, but there is so much.
So many, yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
That's right. Also, you mentioned that, you used to work for a company and several companies thereafter, and you decided to shift from working for someone and you went on your own. How was that shift? Was it a hard shift to make, to go on your own as in a consultancy role?
It is a hard shift, definitely, because I was moving out of Brandix, and when you're moving out from like a C-level position, just the economic factors, you're leaving behind a pretty good salary out there, right? And when you're starting out on your own, you know that you're going to have an year, 2 years where you're not really going to be, you haven't made a name for yourself out there, right? So you know that you're going to have an economic shortfall, kind of thing. But so I started preparing for that.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So an year before, maybe 1.5 years before, so the decision wasn't something sudden. And I think that's something I would really like to tell, to others who might be thinking of it, right? these have to be done very strategically.
Understood.
You can't just jump in and think, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start my business. There's a lot of back work that you have to do to make sure that you're still financially stable. And otherwise, that whole joy of starting something, all of that goes out the window if your financial stability is at stake.
That's true.
So I started preparing like 1.5 years before, and looking at liquidity. So down to mapping my expenses for a month, right? Looking at how much does it really cost me to, with the insurances, everything put in, vehicles, all of that. And then looking at, okay, I need to survive for 12 months if I get nothing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you build that buffer and then only move out. Right? And if you're starting a company, you're looking at your marketing, your websites, all of that. And you really need to plan that well ahead and build that buffer before you really step on that journey. Scary, definitely.
Yes.
Right? But as I said before, I don't think anybody should shy away from challenge. Right?
Yes.
You shouldn't allow fear to restrict you. I think definitely the board positions that I've got on to the consulting work I'm doing for some of the companies I wouldn't have been able to do that had I been still working 9 to 5 in an organization.
That's true. That's definitely true.
So it's been interesting.
I think indeed a good piece of advice coming out, because there are so many, I would say, even youngsters to already employed corporates out there who want to start something of their own. And I think you gave a good mindset of relaxation as to how you should prepare yourself and, shifting from a corporate to being an entrepreneur. I think some great advice coming out.
I think that's something that a lot of people have in them, that desire to create something unique, something that's in your head that only, you can envision, kind of thing. And again, contributing to society by delivering that. Right now, if you take an iPhone or a Samsung, who out there thought, I need an iPhone, right? Where everything can be done with the, swiping of a finger kind of thing.
That's right.
Right? They created that and created the market for it. Now, when you have a new iPhone coming out, the lines are
keeps building.
The lines are a couple of blocks long.
That's
right? Because the demand has been created and the world is better off for what has been produced, So there are so many. It can be even, the home bakers that we see in the papers all the time, right? Everybody's actually doing a great service to the society and community. So you have to nurture that desire to produce and to contribute something, but at the same time, do it carefully, do it in a well thought out, planned manner.
Definitely, so that the planning takes you into a different level and that you don't fail. Talking about planning to execution to also the term came out from me itself, failure. Failure is something which is very common to most of us. I have failed in my life. I'm sure you as an individual have, faced failure. How do you see failure and how would you overcome failure in your life?
So, failure is inevitable, and it's something that will happen, because if you take everything's on a curve, right? You take our stock market to everything else.
Everything is on a curve. That's
so the stock market is a good example.
Yes.
We are on a high at the moment, but naturally that wave has to come down, right? So in our lives as well, you will have the ups and the downs, right? And failures, you need to learn and to derive benefit from those failures, right? What is it that went wrong? And what is it that I didn't do right, right? Was it not leading my team properly? What was that, certain, you probably won't have one thing. It will be a multiple of things that didn't go right. Because failure is usually when things stack up.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
So I think the important point is, so you're just going to be bummed when you fail, undoubtedly. Yes. So you'll have maybe 2 days of where you're just holding your head and you're just like, you don't want to talk to anybody or whatever.
That's right.
I don't do that, but the important thing is, how do you really come out of it and put your heads together again and see. So for me, even with the teams that I might coach, the competition is always within you.
That's true. That's true.
Particularly for me, competition is never with anybody else. It's always within you. And you take even something where you have succeeded, right? And you reflect upon it and you think, I could have done this better. So even in your joys and your successes, if you're reflecting well and if you're reflecting properly, you will then think, okay, there was something that I could have done better in this. So failure is a little more elongated thing where you're thinking, okay, this did fail and there were so many things that we should have done better, right? So, yeah.
I think a lot of learning from this couple of minutes that we're spending with you as well. Some great words and great lessons coming out from you. Thank you for all of it. I would like to directly shift to this question. The current world out there, Sri Lanka is facing a pandemic, and we have seen it for months, days, hoping that this would come to an end. But there are so much of lessons that we learned out of it as well. In your words, Aroshi, how do you see this whole pandemic? How did it affect, and how did you overcome this situation?
So I think this is what we in risk management call a black swan event. It's something that nobody can even think of, nobody can even envision, and it comes and whacks us, right? So this last time this happened was the Spanish flu 100 years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And I think the one thing that the human being has is hope. The one eternal thing.
Yes.
So we thought, okay, my God, 2020, all of us were waiting till 1st of January 2021, thinking it's going to be a brilliant year.
Yes.
This whole pandemic is going to go away and we're going to be home safe kind of thing. And then 2021 was a disaster, I think. So many people who hadn't even contracted COVID, so many fell sick. We had so many deaths. We had lockdowns. But through it all, as I said before, Sri Lanka as a country and the geography part of it also supports, right? Now in the US and other countries where you're hit by winter, the natural elements that support happiness are not there.
That's true.
Sunlight is not there. Warmth is not there, right? So for us, I think just those elements are there to keep us on an even keel without us going down into a lot of, into Great Depression. So in the West, there were people who went into much, trouble because they couldn't meet with people. Plus, we have the whole support structure.
That's right.
Even if we can't meet each other, you'll do a WhatsApp call or a video call or whatever, and you will have aunts and uncles and cousins, and sometimes it's too much kind of thing. But you're never at a loss. But over there, you're alone and you feel alone.
That's right.
Right? So I think our people have really pulled through well. Our organizations have done dramatically well, some of them, where they've gone into this, this whole huddle kind of thing, where you're looking at your costs, you're curtailing costs, plus you're looking at how do you support the community out there, the society out there. So banking, if you take, did a brilliant job. We had mobile units going out there to be able to make sure people had funds for, the grocery thing that came around, whatever it was, a truck or a cart or whatever it was.
The chumpang.
Yeah, chumpang and all of that. Those guys were out there in the middle of COVID, right? You had keels and Cargills and all of them, turning around, getting onto their websites crashing, but picking up again. So I think, and then even having trucks which were mini supermarkets,
yes,
right,
definitely.
going around.
Yes.
So I think if you throw people into a challenging environment, they will learn to survive and they will learn to thrive. So again, Sri Lanka, because we are constantly going through issues. So we had a 30-year war. Then we had the Easter Sunday attack. So Sri Lankan people are used to, situational leadership. They learn how to pivot, or they have already learned how to pivot, right? And we know that things are never going to be the same, at least in this country.
That's true.
Whereas in other countries, things go pretty smoothly along. So we are used to that. And I think your ability to, turn and to pivot and to take on a new situation is so much greater because of that. So having said that, economy-wise, is Sri Lanka doing greatly? No, compared to some of the other Asian countries, which are doing much better in the even through the COVID scenario. So we do have certain things to work through, but I think our people are really capable and some of the most intelligent people in the world. We have to give them the right environment for them to really shine through.
That's true. Definitely. I think and some eye-opening facts out there revealed by you as well. I would also like to ask you, women in power, women in management is a quite debatable role, I would also say. We'll put this, I'll throw this question directly to you. If you were given the chance to lead the country, what 5 things would you do differently from what is being done at the moment?
Joel, I'm not going to talk about what anybody is doing at the moment.
Okay.
I think I wouldn't go to 5. I do strategic planning and corporate planning. I do KPIs for senior managers and CEOs and people. And yes, we put 5 there, but we are here. I think we should look at 3. And the first is discipline, right? Second is morality and ethics. And the third one is culture, right? So I'll just explain those 3.
Yeah.
Discipline. Our country is a free-for-all. Anybody can do anything they want. They can put up a board on the road, put up a little shop. They can go, they find a little, 5 feet gap in between 2 walls. They'll come and put up a little hut and start living there. And before long, and I'm talking of, Colombo 7, where this has happened and I've been witnessing it. Before long, you have 20 people living in that little hut kind of thing, right? Now, nobody does anything. So it's a free-for-all, right? Look at the roads, right? You drive down Ward Place at 5:30 in the evening. The buses are completely on the other lane.
That's
right? Head-on traffic, right? And you compare that against countries like the US, Australia, Europe, where you can't paint your house the color you want, right? There's a color chart given with maybe 5 colors, and you have to pick from one of those, right? If it's going to be just a tiny bit different, you have to get council approval to paint your house that color, right? That is how regulated things are, right? You get caught for drunk driving or something in Australia, for the next 6 months, you have to blow into a tube breathalyzer every time you get into the car. Every time you get into the car, right? That is how regulated things are, right? And we are complete free-for-all.
That's true.
So discipline, I think, is something that has to be brought in. And if it were any government, I would say start with the roads, because you're trying to make a cultural mindset change, right? One of the best places to start, where it starts getting instilled in people's brains, would be the road, right? You start respecting each other and driving according to the rules. We have a plethora of rules, there is no shortage of rules in Sri Lanka, right? Does anybody follow them? No, right? Second one, morality and ethics. I think we have to. There is no way we can develop the country until we get corruption under control. And corruption has become systemic in the country now. It is part of the system. Whether it's a corporate entity, private owned, whether it's a public entity, whether it's a state owned company, a government owned entity, anywhere you look at it, corruption is part and parcel, right? You talk of procurement into any company you want to, company wants to refurbish, right? You have to give a kickback to somebody out there, right? And they expect it. So it's systemic in our society now, right? And that's a huge, huge issue, because money that should be channeled for our development, for the country's development, is going somewhere else, right? So now if you take even our society, our villages and all that out there, a big problem is the drugs, the alcohol, the tobacco, right? It's not that our people are not earning enough, right? Particularly the men earn, then they waste that whole day's earnings without feeding the family. They're drinking it off, kind of thing, right? So discipline, morality and ethics, and third one is culture, right? Culturally, we have gone through, now we had a whole system in our country with our kings, and we had unbelievable development and things that were made. If you take Parakrama Samudra, the gradient in the tank is 1 inch to the mile or something, right? So that is the kind of people and the intelligence and the systems that we had, and those were all decimated by the British, the Portuguese, the Dutch. All of those countries came in and knocked those off. They killed off all our systems, all our leaders, everything. And then after that, we're sitting there thinking, okay, what are we? Who are we? What are our systems? Nothing. We've lost all of it, right? So now we have to recreate. We have to think of the future and the world ahead, right? And start recreating those systems and the culture that we need, right? Keeping the heritage that we have. How do we really recreate a cultured society, right? Who have civility, who have respect for each other, right? So there's a lot that has to be done in the political arena, and these are things that organizations can't take on. These are, the broad scale macro things that a political, environment needs to tackle. So I think those are the 3 things that I would like to bring out.
I think very well, clearly worded as well. And even people watching us right now must have really got it into their heads, saying that, definitely, I think we agree with Aroshi for all those 3 factors, which was very clearly mentioned and clearly explained as well, and a great eye-opening. So I think we have reached the end of our discussion, and it was great to have you with us on the series of I Am, and we wish you all the very best with everything that you do in the future, and hoping that you grow from strength to strength and achieve greater heights in your life, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Joel. Thank
Lovely
you.
to have you with us.
Thank you.
Well, with that, we end this segment of I Am. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you again the next time with another individual who is hoping to bring about change, an individual who will bring a message to you with sharing his or her success story, and of course, great insights being shared. Until then, take care, stay safe.